It starts with a text. Not even a call. Not even the decency of his voice. Just one stupid little bubble on my phone screen that says, "You're overreacting again. I literally told you I was out with the guys." I sit on my bedroom floor, knees pressed to my chest, phone trembling in my hand, rereading that message for the fifth time like it's going to change. Like if I stare at it long enough, it'll say something different, something human. But it doesn't. It just blinks there, like it's the most reasonable thing in the world. Like I'm supposed to ignore the fact that he didn't come home last night, or that I saw the tagged photo on Instagram of him at a party with his arm around someone who definitely isn't me. My name is Lena. I'm 26. And apparently, I'm dramatic. That's what he tells me. That's what they all seem to say. Every time I get upset, every time I cry, every time I try to ask why am I always the one hurting, he says I'm too much. I love too much. I feel too much. And yet somehow it's never enough for him. We've been together for 3 years. 3 years of half-hearted apologies, late-night disappearances, and 1,000 excuses, dressed up like explanations. I was working. I was tired. She's just a friend. Every line, a different version of "don't question me." Every response a brick in the wall he's building between us. But I stayed. God, I stayed. Because I thought if I could just be chill enough, calm enough, small enough, he'd finally love me the way I love him. Instead, I became a version of myself I barely recognized, smiling when I wanted to scream, nodding when I wanted to run, and crying alone in bathrooms, closets, parking lots, because showing him my pain only made him colder. The thing is, I didn't want revenge. Not at first. I just wanted him to care. I wanted one moment where he'd put down his phone, look me in the eyes and say, "Lena, I'm sorry. I know you're hurting. I love you. I'll do better." But that moment never came. What came instead was a night I will never forget. It was supposed to be date night, a small Italian place near our apartment, the one with string lights on the patio and warm bread that melts in your mouth. I waited, dressed up, makeup done, candles lit in the living room, and he didn't show. No text, no call, nothing, until 12:42 a.m. My bad. Got caught up. "You're making this a bigger deal than it is." And then, the cherry on top? "You're being kinda dramatic." I stared at that screen for what felt like forever, and I swear something inside me just cracked. Not like a single break, but like glass under pressure. A slow, splintering, irreversible fracture that starts small but changes everything. Because in that moment, I realized he wasn't confused. He wasn't busy. He just didn't care. I spent that night on the couch, still in my dress, still holding the phone, tears rolling down my face as I whispered all the words I never said out loud. Why wasn't I enough? Why did I stay? Why do you only hear me when I'm silent? And somewhere between heartbreak and exhaustion, I opened my laptop. Not to write a breakup post, not to blast him online, but to write the only way I knew how, raw, unfiltered. For me, I started copying every text message from him that ever made me feel small, every calm down, every "you're overthinking," every "it's not that deep." And I added my thoughts underneath, like annotations in a textbook no one wanted to study. It was therapy. It was survival. I called the document, "He Called Me Dramatic Exhibit A." Weeks passed. We talked once or twice. By talked, I mean he deflected and denied, then called me clingy when I asked for the truth. So I stopped asking. Instead, I kept writing. Every time I remembered a conversation that stung, I'd write it down. Every time I doubted myself, I'd read back what he said and see the gaslighting clearly. Every time I felt like texting him, I added another page. Before I knew it, I had 37,000 words. It was Naomi, my best friend since college, who saw the document on my desktop one night when she came over with wine and sad snacks. She opened it while I was in the kitchen and started reading. And then she wouldn't stop. By the time I came back, she had tears in her eyes and whispered, "Lena, this is a book." I laughed, a bitter little chuckle. "Yeah, a book of pain." She looked me dead in the eye. "No, It's a book of truth, and every woman who's been made to feel like she's too much needs to read this. I didn't believe her at first. Who would want to read about my heartbreak? But Naomi didn't let up. She helped me clean up the writing, format the texts, polish the reflection. She even reached out to a small indie press that specializes in memoir-style storytelling. They read the manuscript and asked for a Zoom call. I didn't think anything of it until they said the words I'll never forget. We'd like to publish your story. We think it will resonate with thousands of women. And just like that, the girl he called dramatic became an author. The night before my manuscript goes to the publisher, I sit alone in my living room, the final draft glowing on my laptop screen like a living thing. My hands hover over the keyboard. My heart is racing, because this was never supposed to be a book. It was supposed to be my way of bleeding quietly, privately, behind a locked door where no one could call it too much. And now, somehow, it's going to be read by strangers, by reviewers, by women who know what it's like to love someone who makes you feel like you're the problem. I should feel excited, proud. But right now, I feel sick. Naomi's voice echoes in my head from our last wine night. If it terrifies you, it probably matters. She always knows what to say. Not in the way he did, with smooth apologies that meant nothing, but in the way that sticks. She's the first person who ever told me I didn't need to shrink. When I told her he said I was too sensitive, she said, or maybe he's just too selfish. When I told her he said I was too needy, she said, or maybe he's not meeting any of your needs. And when I said I wasn't sure if publishing this would make me look bitter, she said, "You're not bitter, you're honest. There's a difference." God, I needed her. I still do. I click save. The title still hits like a punch to the chest. He called me dramatic. It's simple, unapologetic, exactly what he would hate. Which, if I'm being honest, is part of the point now. The day after I sign the publishing contract, I get a text from him. Of course I do. It's like he has a sixth sense for when I'm finally breathing without him. "Hey, been thinking about you. Can we talk?" No apology, no context, just a net thrown out to see if I'll still swim toward it. I don't respond, not right away, but I don't delete it either. I just stare at it for a long time, feeling something I don't recognize. Not pain, not longing, not even anger. It's distance, cold, beautiful distance. Like looking back at a house you once lived in and realizing it was never home. The publisher wants to do a soft launch. Digital. Let's test the waters, they say. Fine by me. I'm not ready for bookstore shelves yet. I'm barely ready to say the words out loud. But 2 weeks after the ebook goes live, things start happening. First, it's a trickle. A few reviews on Goodreads. Then messages in my inbox from women I don't know. I thought I was the only one. This made me cry in a way I didn't know I needed. Thank you for writing what I couldn't say. Then comes a viral tweet. Someone posts a screenshot of one of his worst texts. The one where he told me, "I don't have the bandwidth for your feelings right now," with my annotation under it. Translation: "Your pain is inconvenient for me." It gets 400,000 likes. My follower count explodes overnight. By the weekend, I'm being interviewed on a podcast called Break the Cycle. The host calls me the voice of a generation of women raised to apologize for their feelings. I laugh awkwardly. I don't feel like a voice. I feel like a girl who cried alone on a tile bathroom floor because her boyfriend left her on red for 17 hours. But maybe that's exactly why it resonates. One night, I get a DM from a girl named Mariah. She sends me a long message about her boyfriend of 6 years. How he never hit her, never screamed at her, but somehow made her feel like nothing. How reading my story helped her pack a bag and finally walk away. She ends it with, "You didn't just save me. You reminded me I'm not crazy. I'm not dramatic. I'm done apologizing." I burst into tears, and for once, they're not sad tears. They're seen tears, heard, validated, shared. Every time I thought I was writing into a void, it turns out I was writing someone out of one. Of course he finds out. Naomi texts me a screenshot from his Instagram story. A black background, white text. It's funny how people will twist private things for clout. Then, another. That book is full of lies. I never gave permission for my text to be used. I don't respond publicly. I don't need to, because while he's busy subtweeting his guilt, I'm signing a print deal. The physical book comes out 3 months later. The cover is clean, minimalist. Just the title in bold white letters on a storm gray background. He called me dramatic, and underneath, in smaller font, a memoir in texts. The first time I hold it in my hands, I cry. Not because I'm hurt, but because this time, the tears mean something. I walk into my first book event in a little indie bookstore in Brooklyn, and I swear, I almost turn around and leave, because the line is out the door. Mostly women. Some with tear-streaked faces. Some with copies already dog-eared and highlighted. Some clutching notebooks and asking, "Can you help me write my story too?" It hits me all at once. This is bigger than him. Bigger than me. This is every woman who was told you're too much when she asked to be loved. Every girl who was told she was crazy for reacting to cruelty. Every partner who was made to feel like their pain was a burden instead of a call for care. And then, 2 rows from the back, I see him. He's standing, arms crossed, wearing that smug little smirk I know too well. My stomach drops. For a second, it's like I'm 23 again, apologizing for my tears, begging him to come home. But then Naomi squeezes my hand and whispers, "You owe him nothing." So I walk to the mic. I open the book, and I read the very first page. His words. "My story. You're being dramatic. You're not listening." No, I'm finally hearing everything, and the room goes silent. Then erupts, not in chaos, in applause, loud, fierce, righteous applause. I never make eye contact with him. I don't need to, because this isn't for him. It never was. It's for me, for the girl I used to be, for every message I deleted instead of replying, for every tear I hid in silence, and for every voice I've helped find its own. The bookstore moment stays with me for days, not just the applause, not just the power of being heard, but the fact that I didn't flinch when I saw him. I didn't shrink. I didn't smile to be polite. I didn't say, "Let's talk." I read. I stood in my truth, and I left without looking back, and somehow, that was louder than anything I could have said to his face. 2 weeks later, I get a formal notice from his lawyer, an official letter, wrapped in all caps seriousness and legal jargon, accusing me of defamation and unauthorized use of private correspondence. I laugh out loud when I read it, not because it's funny, but because of course this is his next move. When emotional manipulation doesn't work, men like him turn to intimidation. But I'm not 23 anymore. I'm not on the floor begging someone to love me right. I'm 26. I have a published book, a literary agent, and a lawyer of my own. I send the letter to my legal team. They respond in 2 days. "Nothing in your manuscript violates privacy laws. All text used were sent directly to you, and commentary is legally protected under fair use." Translation: you can't sue someone just because their truth makes you uncomfortable. He backs off. No follow-up. No public statements. Just silence. Which, ironically, is how he always responded when I needed him most. Naomi and I celebrate with overpriced sushi and loud laughter. We sit by the window in our favorite restaurant, sipping wine and talking about how far I've come. "I can't believe this started with a Word doc on your laptop," she says, popping a piece of salmon nigiri into her mouth. I grin. "It started with tears, honestly." She reaches across the table, squeezes my hand. "And look what they built." The next time I cry, it's not because of him, it's because of an email. From a woman named Clara. She's 52, divorced, 2 kids, and she writes the most gutting message I've ever read. "I read your book in one night. I kept highlighting passages that sounded like my own life. My husband used to call me crazy, said I was always starting something. Reading your words helped me remember that I wasn't starting anything. I was just asking to be loved." I close my laptop and let the tears come, because this is why I wrote it. Not for revenge, not for fame, but so that someone else could breathe. The publisher reaches out next. They want to put my book in every major chain. They're ordering a second print run. Sales are exceeding projections, they say. I nod, say thank you, but in my chest, It's not the success that thrills me, it's the proof that my voice isn't too much, that my feelings aren't inconvenient, that there's a world out there ready to listen. A podcast wants me as a recurring guest. A women's magazine runs a full spread titled From Gaslight to Spotlight Lena's Story. I keep waiting to feel like an imposter. Like any minute someone will say, "You're just the girl who cried." But instead I hear, "You're the reason I stopped blaming myself. You helped me leave. I found my voice because of yours." And suddenly, I'm not the girl who cried. I'm the girl who didn't apologize for crying. He texts me again. This time, it's a paragraph. "I read the book, or some of it. I don't think it was fair how you portrayed me. I had things going on you never understood. Still, congrats, I guess. You made something out of it. Wish you the best." I don't respond. Not because I'm bitter, but because I don't need to. Closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from knowing you no longer need one. I get asked all the time, would you ever get back with him if he changed? Do you think he really loved you? Was it hard to share something so personal? And here's the truth. No, I wouldn't. I don't know if he ever really loved anyone. And yes, it was hard. But silence was harder. Pretending I was okay was harder. Carrying shame for someone else's behavior? That was the heaviest thing of all. One night, Naomi and I walk past a bookstore together. There's a display in the window. My book, front and center. I stop. Just stare at it. She nudges me gently. You did that. I shake my head slowly. No, we did. All of us who ever cried and were told to shut up. All of us who were told that too emotional was a flaw. All of us who stopped being afraid to tell the truth. She smiles. You still cry a lot. I smirk. I always will. The next project I work on? It's not another memoir. It's a collection. Stories from women around the world. Their messages. Their journals. Their Exhibit A folders. We call it Too Much, letters from women who feel everything. And I don't write every word, but I feel every one. Because now I know, the thing they shamed us for is our greatest strength. The first time someone calls me an inspiration, I don't know what to say. It's after a panel at a local college, where I'm seated between a trauma therapist and a poet who wrote about surviving domestic abuse. I don't feel like I belong there. I'm not trained in psychology. I didn't survive fists or bruises, just silence, guilt, minimization. But when a girl in the audience, maybe 20, barely out of high school, stands up, clutching a dog-eared copy of my book, I freeze. Her voice shakes as she says, "He didn't hit me, but he erased me. You made me feel like that mattered." And that's when I realize, emotional wounds leave bruises too. They're just harder to photograph. After the panel, people line up to speak with me. Some hold books, some don't. Some just look at me and cry. I never know what to say, so I just listen. Because for so long, no one listened me. And maybe that's what healing really looks like. Giving someone else the thing you needed most. I fly to LA next. There's talk of adapting the book for television. A limited series, something raw, intimate, documentary style. The meeting is in a glossy glass building, where everyone wears sneakers that cost more than my rent used to be. They talk about audience reach and female-led content and expanding the Lena brand. I sit there in my jeans and cardigan, nodding politely, feeling disconnected. Because this started with heartbreak, with me crying alone in my bedroom, afraid of my own feelings, not with development deals or screen tests. They want to know if I'd consider acting as myself. I laugh, gently, but clearly. I already lived it. I don't need to pretend to. Back home, Naomi's apartment is filled with moving boxes. She got the job, the one she interviewed for back when she first told me to publish the book. She believed in me before I did. I tell the camera during a behind-the-scenes interview for the paperback release. And it's true. Naomi saw something in me long before I had the words to defend myself. She believed I wasn't crazy, that my tears were valid, that my pain had purpose. I try to thank her, but she waves it off. You thanked me the day you started writing. I'm invited to speak at a women's conference in Chicago. The ballroom is massive. Hundreds of seats, spotlights, a stage. When I step up to the mic, I have notes, but I don't use them. I speak from memory, from ache, from growth. I used to think feeling deeply was a weakness. I tell the room that if I cried too much, I was broken, but now I know my tears were never the problem. The silence was. There's a pause, then applause, not polite, not brief. It builds like a wave sweeping over me, and for the first time, I don't flinch from it. I let it hit me, because this time, I'm the one being heard. After the event, I sit alone backstage, sipping water, staring at the ceiling, and I think about him, not because I miss him, but because I wonder if he ever figured out what it means to truly care, to sit with someone's pain without trying to fix or deflect it, to say, I hear you, and me. But then I remind myself, it's not my job to wonder anymore. I handed him every piece of my heart, and he labeled it too emotional. So I turned it into a story and let the world decide what it really was. My DMs are flooded daily. Some from readers, some from men trying to connect, some from women asking how to start their own book. But one message stops me cold. It's from his ex, not the girl I saw him with in the photo. Another one. Before me? She writes, I saw your book. I saw myself on every page. He did the same things to me, made me feel like I was crazy, needy, overreacting. I tried to tell people, but no one believed me. Thank you for putting it out there. Now I know it wasn't just me. My chest tightens, because I remember being hurt. I remember Googling, is it emotional abuse if he says I'm too sensitive? I remember deleting texts so no one would call me desperate. And now, the truth is in bookstores, not hidden in screenshots. The publisher calls again. We want to do a follow-up, they say. Something more personal. Journal entries, reflections, maybe even letters you never sent. Letters I never sent. God, I have dozens of them. In notebooks, on napkins, in the notes app of my phone at 2 a.m. Letters to him, to myself, to the version of me that stayed. I call Naomi that night. Should I do it? She doesn't hesitate. Only if you're ready. But Lena, your words matter. Still. So I say yes. Because the truth is, I've been writing that second book in my head for months. I spend weeks going through old journals. Some entries break my heart, some make me furious. Some are so tender I have to close the notebook and walk away. But I keep going, because I want the next book to be for the girls still in it. The ones who haven't left yet. The ones who aren't sure if crying alone in the bathroom counts as trauma. Spoiler. It does. I write a letter titled To the Girl Who Feels Too Much. And when I read it back I cry. But I don't feel ashamed. I feel real. The book is raw. Less polished. More intimate. It doesn't have a clean arc. It's messy. It spirals. It recovers. It bleeds. But it's honest. And that's enough. When it comes out, the reviews are even stronger than the first. Because this time, it's not about him. It's about us. About every girl who stayed longer than she should have because someone told her she was lucky to be loved at all. About every woman who was told she had an attitude when all she had was a boundary. About every tear that was ever called dramatic. A book club emails me. They want to do a reading circle using both books. They invite me to join the final session. I log in, nayness, sweaty palms. But the Zoom screen fills with faces, women in their 20s, 30s, 50s, and one by one, they share their stories. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, true. And when one of them says, I'm still with him, but I think after reading your book, I'm ready to leave. I cover my mouth and sob, because that's the moment I wrote. The day my second book hits the New York Times bestseller list, I'm standing in my kitchen, in pajamas, with a spoonful of peanut butter in my mouth. Naomi calls me screaming. I almost drop the jar. Lena, you did it. You did it. I blink at the screen. Check the website myself. There it is, my name. Not just in the bookstore. Not just in the notes app of some tired girl curled up in bed wondering if she's broken. But on the list. Official. Permanent. Unapologetic. Me. I used to think I had to be quiet to be loved. That if I cried too much, I'd push people away. That my softness was something to be managed, hidden, cleaned up. But now my softness is a spotlight. My mess is a map. My pain is published. And people are buying it on purpose. Not because they want to gawk at it, but because it sounds like them. Because it is them. I get invited to a writer's retreat in upstate New York. It's cold and quiet and beautiful in a way I don't know how to describe. The cabin they assign me has a desk by the window and firewood stacked neatly in the corner. For the first time in months, I have no interviews, no calls, no camera, just paper, pen, snowfall. I sit at the desk, stare out at the trees, and ask myself something I haven't asked in a long time. What do I want next? It's not another memoir. At least not yet. I don't want to relive the past. I want to create something new, something that isn't born out of heartbreak, but hope. I spend the week writing the beginnings of something different. A novel, maybe. Fictional characters who cry like I used to, but who get better endings than I did. Characters who don't need to be broken to be interesting. One night at the retreat, I get a message request. It's from someone named Caroline. I almost ignore it until I see the last name. His sister. We only met once, years ago. She barely looked at me. I remember thinking she found me annoying. Turns out I was just too honest for her family's taste. I open the message. Hi, Lena. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out. I read both your books. I want to say I'm sorry for not seeing it, for dismissing you, for believing him. I know now how he operates. Thank you for telling the truth. I stare at the screen. I don't respond. Not because I'm angry, but because I don't need anything from her. Not anymore. When I get back from the retreat, I find a letter in my mailbox. A real letter. Envelope. Stamp. Handwritten. Inside is a note from a woman named Jean, age 67. She writes, "When I was your age, no one talked about emotional abuse. If your husband didn't hit you, people told you to be grateful. I cried in secret for decades. Your book made me feel like I existed, like I wasn't crazy after all. Thank you for saying the words I couldn't." I press the paper to my chest, and for the 100th time, I cry. But this time, the tears feel sacred. A university adds, "He called me dramatic to their curriculum for a course on modern feminism and emotional labor. They invite me to come speak." I walk into a lecture hall, filled with students taking notes on my story. There's a slide behind me with the words, "The Power of Naming the Hurt." I begin by reading one of his texts, the one that used to make me shrink the most. "I can't deal with your emotions right now." And then I look up, meet every pair of eyes in that room, and say, "Your emotions are not a burden. They are a language. And no one gets to tell you your voice is too loud just because they don't like the sound of truth." You could hear a pin drop. Then a girl in the second row wipes her eyes. Then another. And then the room breathes. Together. That night, I sit in my hotel room, feet sore from heels I only wear for events. And I think, this is what power feels like. Not revenge. Not getting even. But rising. Rising so far above the version of yourself they thought they could shatter. Rising until you can barely see the girl who once begged for love she had to earn with silence. Months pass. The media attention quiets. The book tours end, and for the first time since everything happened, life feels still. Not stagnant, just steady. I spend mornings in coffee shops writing pages that don't bleed. I text Naomi just to say, "Thinking of you." I meet new people and don't flinch when they ask if I'm that author. I say yes, proudly. And then one day, I'm in a bookstore, just browsing when I see a young girl picking up my book. She flips through the pages, reads a paragraph, bites her lip. I walk over, gently, and say, "That one's a heavy read." She looks up, startled. "Oh, I've heard." She pauses, looks at the back cover, then back at me. "Did you read it?" I smile. "I wrote it." Her jaw drops. I don't know what to say. I just nod. "You don't have to. I just hope it helps." She hugs the book to her chest and whispers, "I think it already has." And I walk out of that bookstore, heart full, head high, because what they tried to silence became the loudest thing about me. I used to think closure meant a final conversation, a neat ending, a look across the room where everything made sense, and we both nodded. Him. Finally sorry, me. Finally okay. But I don't think that anymore. Closure isn't a moment someone gives you. It's something you take when you stop waiting to be understood, when you realize that healing doesn't need an apology. It just needs the truth. It's a Sunday morning when I get the message from him. Again. "Hey, I saw the article about your second book. Can't lie. It hit hard. I've been in therapy. I know I messed up. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know I see it now." I sit with it. The words don't sting like they used to, because now I read them with distance. Not long, just perspective. He says he's changed, that he wishes he could take it back, that he's proud of me somehow, even though he never supported me when I needed it most. It's strange to see the man who once called me too much now call me powerful. But I don't reply, not because I'm angry, but because that version of me doesn't exist anymore. I cried for him, wrote about him, rebuilt my life from the wreckage he left. And now I'm done handing out closure to people who burned the bridge. I write a final essay. It's not part of a book, not for a panel or a feature, just for me. I title it, "The Girl Who Cried and Kept Going." In it, I write about how heartbreak isn't just the end of a relationship. It's the end of the version of yourself that stayed small to be loved. I write about silence, about erasure, about all the things I wish someone had told me at 23. That a partner who doesn't sit with your sadness doesn't deserve your joy. That being emotional is not a weakness. That you are not hard to love. They were just unwilling to try. A small magazine asks to publish the piece. I almost say no. It feels too raw, too personal. But then I think of all the women who never got to write their version, and I say yes. Naomi and I have dinner to celebrate. She's moving in with her girlfriend next month. Her smile is easy, her eyes soft, her laugh full. We toast with wine. To new chapters, I say. To the girl who cried and cashed in, she jokes. We laugh, but we both know it wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about survival. About saying, I am still here, even after everything, even after him. The magazine goes live, and something unexpected happens. It trends. The essay, just a simple essay, gets picked up by influencers, shared in therapy groups, quoted on Instagram graphics. One line gets screenshotted everywhere. Healing doesn't always look like smiling. Sometimes it looks like crying louder than you ever did before. It reaches people I never thought it would. And with it, so does my story. A journalist calls it a cultural moment for women who are tired of being told to stay quiet. That feels surreal. Because for so long, I was quiet. I stayed quiet when he minimized me, when friends told me to focus on the good parts, when even I wondered if I was just being too dramatic. But now my voice is louder than ever. Not to scream, not to shame, but to say it plainly. You can cry and still rise. You can feel everything and still be whole. One morning, I wake up to a message from a school counselor. "We used your story in a workshop for teen girls." One of them came up after and said, "I didn't know you were allowed to leave someone who doesn't hit you but still hurts you." I stare at the screen and cry because I remember being that girl. And now she knows. I visit my childhood home for the first time in years. My mom hugs me tightly, kisses my cheek, tells me she's proud. She's read both books twice. I didn't know, she says softly. I wish I had. I would have come for you, I smile. I had to come for myself first. We sit on the porch. There's a chill in the air. She pours tea. I wrap a blanket around my legs. For the first time, I tell her everything. The tears, the silence, the texts, the doubt. She listens. She doesn't try to fix it. She just listens, and that, I realize, is what I always needed. The same porch I used to sit on as a teenager, wondering if I'd ever be enough. And now, now I'm more than enough. Not because I'm perfect, but because I stopped asking other people to define me. Later, I walk past my old bedroom. The walls still have my favorite posters. The same chipped desk. The little corkboard with my high school awards. I used to think this room was too small for me. But now I know it wasn't the room, it was the way I was taught to shrink. Now I write stories that take up space, that fill room, that spill off the page. The last thing I do before leaving, I pin something new to that corkboard, a typed out quote from my second book. They said I was dramatic, but I was just drowning in silence. And underneath it I add, not anymore. It's funny how healing sneaks up on you. It doesn't arrive with fanfare or some dramatic revelation. There's no spotlight, no music swell, no final text that makes everything make sense. It comes quietly, in a moment you almost miss, like waking up one day and realizing you're no longer angry. You don't flinch when his name is mentioned. You don't feel the need to reread the old messages. You don't cry when you think about how much it hurt. You just feel light, like the weight you've been carrying for years finally rolled off your chest when you weren't looking. It's a rainy Thursday when I finish my third book. This one isn't about pain. It's fiction. A novel about a woman who feels everything, loves deeply, loses hard, and still finds her way back to herself. It's not about him, it's about her. And in a way, it's still about me, just the healed version. The one who doesn't write to bleed anymore, the one who writes to build. My editor loves it. She sends back the manuscript with notes like, "This is your strongest work yet. It's raw, but hopeful. You've carved a new voice for yourself." I cry when I read her comments. Not the kind of tears that sting, but the kind that cleanse, the kind that say, "You made it." I move into a new apartment. Nothing fancy, but it has sunlight in the mornings and hardwood floors and a little nook where I can write. Naomi helps me hang up my framed book covers. We laugh as we level the nails, both of us pretending to be handy when we're clearly not. She holds up the last one, the original bestseller, and turns to me. "You know," she says, "this one? This isn't just a book. It's a marker." I raise an eyebrow. She smiles. "It's where your life really started." I nod, because she's right. That book, born from late-night cries and shaky hands and second-guessing every sentence, was my rebirth. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about saying, I was here. I felt this. I survived. And now I thrive. I get an invitation to speak at a major literary awards gala. They're honoring me for emotional impact in contemporary literature. I read the email twice just to make sure it's real. Then I text Naomi one word, screaming. She responds with 27 exclamation points. The night of the event, I stand backstage in a sleek black dress, heels I regret, and the necklace I wore the day I signed my first book deal. My name is announced. I walk on stage. The applause is thunderous, but it's not the sound that gets me. It's the eyes, hundreds of them, all looking at me not with pity, but with pride. And I realize, this is the sound of a woman reclaiming her story. I speak slowly, clearly, because I want every word to matter. I used to believe that feeling deeply was dangerous. I tell them that if I cried, it meant I was weak, that if I broke, I'd never be whole again. I glance at the crowd. Some nod, some smile. A few are wiping tears. But then I wrote through the pain, and I found power in the pieces. A pause, and now I cry when I need to, I speak when I want to, and I don't shrink to make anyone comfortable. The applause is immediate, louder than I expected, longer than I'm ready for, but I stand in it. Because now I can hold joy without guilt. After the gala, a woman pulls me aside. She's older, mid-60s maybe, with silver hair and eyes that feel like home. She says, "I waited until retirement to finally leave my husband. I read your first book hiding in the bathroom." My chest tightens. "I want you to know," she continues, "you didn't just change lives. You saved them." I blink back tears, take her hand, and whisper thank you. Because what else do you say when someone tells you they're still here because of your words? The next morning, I wake up to a photo someone tagged me in on social media. It's a bookstore window. The caption reads, "We stocked up for every girl who was ever told she was too much." My book is front and center. Next to it, a quote from the inside flap. "They called me dramatic, so I told the world exactly how it felt. And the world listened." I smile, because this is bigger than me now. It's not about him. It's not even about the heartbreak anymore. It's about the girls who feel too much. The women who cry in silence. The ones who second guess their worth because someone told them they were too emotional. It's about us. I don't know what comes next. Another book, probably. A new love, maybe. More tears, for sure. But this time, they'll fall without shame. Because I know now, every tear told a story, and every story held a truth, and every truth brought me here. So, if you're watching this, if you've ever been called too dramatic, too much, too sensitive, I want you to know they were wrong. You were always just enough. And your story, it's worth telling.